hello, and thank you so much for joining me this morning for the podcast of the True Power from Within. I do pray that each and every day this podcast touches you in the most amazing and encouraging way. So, this morning, as I'm doing my prayer time and my meditation, and I'm listening to a personal development podcast, the message that God gave me this morning was about Lazarus. And I think that this story speaks, abundance in our lives as far as the work of Jesus. And if you've never heard the story of Lazarus, it's about, Lazarus was the brother of Mary and Martha, right? And Mary and Martha were, they were strong believers in Jesus, and they had become very close with Jesus, right? They had created a friendship and a bond. And Lazarus got sick, right? And so the sisters sent a message to Jesus, you need to come because my brother is sick, right? We know that you can heal him, but we need you to come. We need you to come now because we need this miracle right now. We need you to save our brother Lazarus, right? Well, even though Jesus had heard this, he waited before he went, right? The Bible says that he waited for 2 more days, right? Before he began his journey to see Mary and Martha and eventually raise Lazarus from the dead, right? And so I want to come from a couple of different passages here in John chapter 11. But the first one is that I want to really kind of focus on is the one that says that, in it says the sickness will not end in death, but is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it. Jesus knew that Mary and Martha and Lazarus really, really loved him and really believed in his work, right? But I think that Jesus was here to prove a point, right? It's the same in our lives today, right? We may be in this dead season, right? We may feel that we're in a dead season. Maybe you're in an addiction. Maybe, you just got out of prison, or maybe there's a possibility you could be going to prison, right? Maybe you're in a dead place of self-worth. Maybe you're in a dead place of having no confidence in yourself. Maybe you're in a dead place of trauma or pain or divorce, or maybe your children are sick, or maybe they're acting crazy, or whatever it is, right? And you feel like you're in this season that God and Jesus is not hearing you, right? And you have been praying and sending messages to him, and I need you right now in these dead places in my life, Lord, because I can't wake these things up myself. And you hear a silence, right? And you feel like you're not hearing from him in this season, when you're praying about these dead things in your life. And it's so amazing because Jesus traveled, right? He traveled there. It says that by the time he arrived, Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Okay, he'd already been dead for 4 days. Can you imagine? And it even says in here that one of the sisters had said, Lord, there's already a stench upon him. Sometimes in our lives, when we are in these dead places, right, there seems to be a stench among us, right? We we doubt ourselves. We don't have any self-worth. Our confidence levels have decreased. Our business has our financials have decreased in our business. we got sober and then we returned to that addiction because we weren't strong enough. Maybe, you got out of prison and you're trying to do everything you can, but nothing seems to be working for you. Or maybe you've been sick for so long and you're saying, Lord, I'm just praying for this healing. And, you don't see the healing happening. And, we, a lot of times in these seasons, we give up, right? We give up and we quit because we say, this is dead in my life and there's nothing I can do about it. God's not helping me. I'm just going to give up. I'm just going to quit because this isn't for me, or I'll never be healed, or I'll never love myself again, or I'll never have that type of confidence again. And this is just a dead place in my life, and you quit and you walk away from whatever that was. Maybe it was a dream or a goal, or maybe you felt like you were walking in God's purpose, but you weren't seeing anything happening in that moment. So you gave up. You just considered it dead and you just gave up and you walked away. But when we pray, we know that God is not a right now God, but he is yet an on time God, right? We don't always see things in our season. Sometimes we have to be in that dead place for a moment because, God's trying to show us something, right? In Lazarus' case, he was trying to show people that, even though Lazarus is dead, I can still speak life into him, right? And he will come back and he will be whole. And in fact, it does say here, Jesus was telling his disciples, he says that he had said to the disciples, Lord, if he has fallen asleep, then he will get well, because because Jesus said that our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I am on my way to wake him up. Well, they didn't understand that. They were like, well, if he's asleep, then he'll just wake up and he'll be fine, right? But, Jesus was really trying to show them something. And not only him, but, Mary and Martha and all of the other people that would see this miracle happen, right? And, Mary and Martha were already, even though they had so much faith and belief in Jesus, but were already mourning their brother. I mean, it says in here that they were in their home and people were there comforting them because they were grieving the loss of their brother. How many times do you go through years of grief, right? You're grieving, maybe a family member. Maybe you're grieving, the fact that, you were in addiction and you're trying to, do better with your life, but yet you just don't see anything happening, and you're grieving. You're grieving for a life that you thought you would have, right? We grieve for the business that failed. We grieve for our children who are sick, or they are, stumbling in their path. We grieve for so many things, the confidence, the self-worth. We grieve for these things in our lives, right? So we see in these scriptures that, Mary and Martha, they're grieving. People are comforting them in this moment, but then Jesus comes, right? He shows up, and and they're seeing, Jesus is seeing how hurt they are. And it says, when Jesus saw her crying and the Jews who had come with her crying, he was deeply moved in his spirit and trouble. Where have you put him? He asked. Lord, they told him, come and see. And it says that Jesus wept. It's not by mistake that you go through these dead seasons in your life. It's not by mistake that you are having some trouble, or you go through the things that you've went through, or you feel like all is lost, right? Because here, I think, is the positive thing about the story, is that not only will God meet you in those places, but he also sees your tears. It says very clearly that Jesus wept when he saw the pain, and he saw the hurt, and he saw the grief that was coming from Lazarus' sisters and the people that were with them, right? And so we see that Jesus is like, I will meet you in those places where you feel like things are dead, where you've given up, where you have quit on, your purpose or your goals or your dreams. I'll meet you in that dead place, right? I see your tears. I'm weeping with you, and I see you. And so it says, so the Jews said, how have we loved him? But some of them said, couldn't he have opened the blind man's eyes? Couldn't he who have opened the blind man's eyes also have kept this man from dying? Sometimes in a season where we feel like God is not hearing us, or we feel like things are not moving, it's not because he doesn't want to move them for us. It's that sometimes we need to see some things. Sometimes we need to experience some things. There's a lesson, right? Because even though we feel like things are not moving and we're hurting, that pain can be used for purpose. Right? God says, I need you to move in your own life a little bit, because if I just do it all for you, there will never be the belief, there'll never be the faith, there'll never be the understanding of how I work or how I move in your life. I need you to know, and I need you to see the miracles, because the miracles and the blessings that I do in your life are to glorify God. Because in most cases, people count you out. You get in a dead season in your life and people count you out, right? They're easy to quit on you. They're easy to talk about you. They're easy to say, oh, she'll never change, or he'll never change, or he'll never be anything in his life. Oh, he wants to start a business. Yeah, that's a funny one, because his past does not dictate him being a business owner, right? He didn't go to college. He doesn't have any type of skills to own a business. She has, she didn't even finish high school. What is she thinking? And sometimes God allows these things because he's seeking growth in a dead season. He's seeking, more prayer time with him. He's seeking an area where he can move and create a miracle in your life for his glory. And so we see that it says, then Jesus was deeply moved again, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone was lying against it. Remove the stone, Jesus said. Martha, the dead man's sister, told him, Lord, there has already been a stench because he's been dead for 4 days. Sometimes that stench that we feel, or that situation that we feel has been dead for so long, right? And when God says, move away the tomb, right? Or move away the stone, God is saying, I can breathe life back into you. I can breathe life back into those goals and those dreams and that confidence and that self-worth. And I can use that pain for your purpose. And I can breathe life back into that business. I can, breathe life back into that marriage. I can breathe life back into those children. He's saying, I can do this. But just because you feel like you've been dead for 4 days, maybe you feel like you've been dead for 2 years or 4 years, it doesn't matter, because Jesus is still willing to show up. But I think what represents when he says remove the stone, he's saying that you too have to do some work in the situation, right? He's not going to come to the grave. He's not going to come into those dead places and say, okay, let me remove the stone. Let me do this. Let me work all these miracles. Because if he did it all for you without you having to do any work, then it's not going to be a miracle in your life. In fact, it could be more harmful than good, because you wouldn't be able to recognize the miracles. You wouldn't be able to recognize the blessings, because God is just doing it all for you. It says faith without works is dead, right? So when we do the work and we have the faith, God can move mountains in our life, right? He says, remove the stone, Jesus said. Martha, the dead man's sister, told him he'd been dead for 4 days. Jesus said to her, didn't I tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God? And then it says, So they removed the stone. Then Jesus raised his eyes and said, Father, I thank you that you heard me. I know that you always hear me, but because of the crowd standing here, I said this so that they may believe you sent me. And after he said this, he shouted with a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. The dead man came out, bound hand and foot with linen strips, and with his face wrapped in a cloth. Jesus said to them, unwrap him and let him go. This is such a powerful message. This is such a powerful book in the or chapter in the Bible, because it's no different than our life today. It's no different, right? You know, Jesus is still fighting for us every day. He died for those dead places in our life. He died so that we may have life and we may be forgiven, right? But today he's saying, remove that stone, right? That's been covering that tomb of yours for so long. Remove the stone. Just remove it, right? I hear your prayers. I see your tears. I feel your pain, but it's time for you to remove the stone so that I can call you out of those dead places. It's time for you to stop giving up on yourself. It's time for you to stop saying, I'm not worth it, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough, or, you know, that dream left me a long time ago. That's not the case. God is saying today to remove the stone, right? Remove the stone from that dead place that you've been laying in for 3 months, 2 years, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, 20 years. Remove the stone, because it's time for me to call you out. It's time for me to call you out of those dead places so that you can go and that you can share the miracle that I've done in your life. You may have thought that that season of dead places was not going to end, but Jesus is saying today, I'm calling you out. I'm calling you out of that tomb. I'm asking you to remove the stone. I'm calling you out so that you can glorify me in the miracles that I have done in your life. Just because you feel like all is lost, you feel like you're never going to get ahead, you feel like God is not hearing you and he's not listening to you and you're too far gone, or you know that you've relapsed 4 times, or you've been to prison a couple of times, or you may be going to prison, or you just got out of prison, it is not too late to roll away the stone. It is not too late for God to call you out of that dead place. But what I want to tell you today is it's time to stop living in those dead places. Because God is calling you out right now. He's calling you out for purpose. He's calling you out to be a kingdom builder. He's calling you out to start that business to help other people. He's calling you out to start the business to create opportunities to change other people's lives. He's calling you out to share his word and his miracles. And he's calling you out so that you can be a light in a very dark world right now. But you've got to be willing to remove the stone. You've got to be willing to call out in those dead places, because we have to do the work that God has called us to do in this life. We have to believe. We have to have faith, right? Even in the dead places, we have to have the faith. We have to have the belief. We may see God is not moving in that area, but in reality, he's just trying to show us something. There's an experience in that. There's a lesson in that. There's a little bit more faith that needs to be had. There's a little bit more prayer that needs to be had. But God, or Jesus, is calling you out today. He's calling you out of the dead places. He says, it's time. It's time right now. You have been grieving and you have been weeping over these areas of your life for too long. And it is time now for you to stand up, to go to that tomb that you've walked away from, those very places that you quit on, or that very place that you said you gave up. He said, no, I need you to go back to that tomb. I need you to remove the stone because I'm calling you out today. I'm calling you out to that greater plan that I've had. I'm calling you out to that miracle, into that blessing, into that, that your finances, right? I'm calling you out today. And it's time for you to come out of those dead places. So I'm just asking you today, don't give up. Don't give up, even though you think that all is lost. You think that that area of your life that you once believed in so much is dead. Don't stop believing, because that dead place may stink, right? It may stink. There may be no confidence and no belief left in that situation. But God says today is the day that you remove the tomb, and I'm calling you out. I'm calling you out to those miracles. I'm calling you out to that business. I'm calling you out to that dream. I'm calling you out to that purpose. And it's time for you to stand up. You may be bound by so many chains. You may be bound. You may be in bondage over some situations. But God is saying today, I'm calling you out. That life still exists in that dead place. And I'm calling you out because I have a purpose for you. I have a plan for you. I'm calling you out because I need you to go back and tell other people the miracles that I have done in your life. That just because they counted you out, just because they said that you couldn't do it, or you weren't smart enough, or your background did not, there was no way with your background that you were ever going to make it. God said, those very dead places, that's where I'm going to do the miracle. I'm going to do the miracle because not only do you need to see it, but all those other people that counted you out, they also need to see it. They also need to see that I do work for the good of those who love me. I do create miracles. I do breathe life back into dead places. So today I'm asking you to get up this morning and remove the tomb. Continue to pray, because God is calling you out today. He's calling out those dead places today. He's calling you out into purpose. He's calling you out into those dreams and those goals. And it's time for you to stand up. It's time for you to stand up. It's time for you to allow God to breathe back into those areas of your life, because you are worth it. You are enough. Just because somebody counted you out, don't mean that you're out, right? Because it's not over until God says it's over. And he's not saying today that it's over. He's saying that the miracle has just begun. You ask, you're praying and you're crying and you're grieving over so many things, and you've asked God for this miracle. Well, guess what? He's put you in a place so that he can work one in your life. Now it's time for you to get up and remove the stone, because he is calling you out today. All right. Thank you so much for hanging out with me this morning. If I added value, please share this to your Facebook or to your social media. If you're actually on the podcast, just go ahead and screenshot it, share it over to your social media, or tag some people in the comments that you think might appreciate this message today. But again, I hope that this touches you in the most amazing way, and I hope that you have an absolutely awesome and productive and blessed day, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.